Okay, I'm hoping you can hear me now. We did seem to have some audio issues there. I must admit, I think I ran some Windows updates, and that's always a fraught thing because every single time I do it, Windows stuffs something up, which is incredibly annoying. But hopefully you can hear me now. Oh dear. Okay, yep, cool. So I'm hoping you can hear me now. Although I'm actually on the wrong. Let me try over here. Is this working? Are we back in? Okay, that is so annoying. I wish Windows wouldn't do that. It's funny during the week that happened in something else, which changed my audio settings a little bit, which is incredibly annoying. I hate that. Let's pretend that never happened. I won't do the whole thing again, but hello and welcome. This is Learn Live Streaming Live. My name's John Lacey. I do have working audio now, so that's always an improvement. But on today's show, we are going out live to all the various places, so let me know in the chat where you're watching from. And hopefully you can actually hear me now, which is exciting. So before we get into today's show, which I should say is about DaVinci Resolve, and we'll look at working with generators, text, and masks, I need to press this magic button again. The best place to watch is johnlacey.com/live, and the push to 1,000 subscribers. I should have a sound effect queued up for this, but I don't. But we have reached that. I think it's 1,010 subscribers right now. So thank you to everybody who supports the channel. I do really appreciate it. It's been, 3 years in the making, so it is kind of tricky. And Business Growth Ready says Apple does the same sometimes with cameras. It'll flip the cameras around. Yeah. Okay, so just, if you learn nothing else from today's show, check those audio settings after you run a Windows update because it's incredibly annoying. I hope you've been well. It's been Amazon Prime Week. It might still be Amazon Prime Week. I've certainly bought some things. I will tell you more about those next week, but hopefully it hasn't been too hard on the old wallet. But we'll definitely talk about my purchases next week. But in the interim, and Business Growth Ready says, well done for hitting the 1,000. Yep, thank you very much. Let's just get stuck into DaVinci Resolve now that we have working audio. So I've just got a new project open. I guess the place we want to start today, and again, all of this stuff lives in the effects panel, and I might even make this larger, so hopefully you can see it a little bit better. But we've got a whole bunch of things in the effects. We've got effects, fusion effects, Resolve. I must admit, I have this terrible problem where I just download random plugins from all across the web, and I don't know what half of these do, but we'll come back to those. But what I want to sort of dwell on today, hopefully they're here. Keep scrolling. Oh, generators up here. Sorry. I haven't had enough coffee. All right, cool. So now we've got our generators. And some of these will probably be more useful than others, but I did want to explore them because I think some of them are really useful. So we've got things like the 10 step, which is literally just 10 shades of gray. I've got a variation on that theme. We've got sort of these test patterns that you see in TV. Again, I don't know how useful they are in an online context, but maybe you have a use for them. One of the most useful ones, though, is the solid color. So if you want to introduce a color to your project, we can literally just drag and drop this in. And I'm on the cut page, not the edit page, which is rather annoying. Let's just switch over. All right, cool. All right. So now we've got our solid color, and we can come in and we can pick whatever color we like. If you've got a HTML color, you can adjust it over here. If you're using hue, saturation, value, or RGB, you can do that there as well. You can also do custom colors, which is something I think I should be doing a lot more than I actually am, but I've only set one of those up. But essentially, we can grab a color and we can generate that, and we've got our color. So again, I know it's probably not the most exciting thing in the world, but I think it is quite useful. And again, that could be a background. We could actually come in here and you know, adjust the size of this as well. We could crop this if we wanted to make it like a little banner across the bottom of the screen. Again, a bit like this one, which will probably cut my head off. That actually incorporates a bit of solid color in the background there. So we can definitely do that. Another one that we've got is the 4-color gradient. So, you know, this does what it says on the tin. It gives you 4 colors and there's a gradient. So if I click into this one and we go to the generator settings, we can see we've got an upper left color, an upper right color, lower left color, lower right color. And again, I can sort of come in here and adjust these if I want to. So maybe, in fact, what I'll do, I'm going to copy that HTML color, and we'll do this on both sides of the left. And we might even make this one blue color. And in essence, now we've got a 2-color gradient, and we can sort of adjust, you know, where the center point is. So we can do that like that. And again, if I grab my my 4-color gradient, and let's actually add a new track, and I'll actually put this one, move this up, and let's grab some random footage, and I'll drag and drop this onto the timeline. I mean, the audio is not terribly important for this purpose, so I'll just get rid of it. Let's drag this over here. So obviously this is opaque at the moment, so you're not going to see anything that's underneath it, but we do have blend modes. So if I click on my generator, I go over to the settings and we scroll down a little bit, we've got the composite modes. So normal, that's 100% opacity, so it's completely solid. If we drag this down, we can make it sort of more and more transparent. But we do have other blend modes, and I might even, actually I can't drag that up any further, but we've got different color modes. So add, color, color burn, color dodge, darken, dark color, difference, which is getting quite hip, quite unique, and divide. So I actually quite like the idea of maybe using the color one here. And again, if I just drag that out, we can add a little bit of color to that really easily. And again, if you don't like the particular colors, you can always go in and sort of change that with the gradients. And you can also play with the blend modes and even the opacity. So if I wanted something that was maybe a little bit more subtle, I can just bring that down. So we definitely have those blend modes to work with. And that's a really useful thing to do. So we've got that there. Let's get rid of, I'm going to get rid of everything on the timeline. We'll keep going. What else do we have? We've got the fusion generators. So this is an incredibly, I would suggest, niche use case, but if you wanted to recreate the Simpsons opening, they have a generator for that. So if I hit play, you'll see we have these clouds and they're sort of moving. And I believe if you go into the settings, we can sort of change the separation, the vertical separation. We can change the number of clouds. So if you want a lot of clouds, if you want them randomly seated, horizontal position, vertical position. Again, I think that's something that a lot of people got very excited about, but I don't know when I would actually use that in real life. But we do have other things here. We've got abstract mesh. Interestingly, this one seems to have a bit of transparency. So let's actually put a, we'll put this above it and we'll put a solid color underneath it. And we'll change the color, maybe something that's a little bit more visible. Let's go for this yellow perhaps. Okay. So now if I hit play, I don't know if that's actually doing anything. Let me just check out these settings. So maybe the movement, if I increase the movement, and we'll go back to the beginning. That's a little bit more prominent, but this is evidently quite a subtle setting. But we do have different color options in here. We could play around with that a little bit more. All right. Comic speed line. So again, if you're doing something in the style of a comic or a cartoon and you need some action speed lines, we've got this one. And that probably would work a little bit better if I made it smaller and maybe sped it up a little bit more. Again, I don't know how often I would reach for that. In fact, I don't think I ever have outside of a demo like this one. Contours is rather interesting. Again, you'll see, you can see the yellow that's underneath it. So potentially if you had a video there or something and you just want to add some animation to the bottom of this one, we've got that there. Cube array. So I guess a lot of these, if you just want some background texture, this is a good place to start. So maybe if you're, and again, combining them perhaps with those blend modes, if you wanted to make them a little bit more subtle, you could definitely do that as well. It's kind of interesting. Diamond lines. I probably won't go through all of these because, you know, you probably get the idea. But again, this one is kind of elegant. I like this. I might find a use for that one. So we've got a whole bunch of these. We've got dreamy shapes. The other thing too is if you just hover over this, it'll give you a preview. Gradient lines, hexagon glow. I've definitely used that one, I think in the OBS Obsessed opening sequence. I used that somewhere. We've got a honeycomb option. We've got the Neo Future. We've got the noise gradient. So this one is actually really nice because it is quite abstract. So again, if you wanted something, maybe we've got some text on this. Maybe we'll come back to this when we get to our text section. But if you've got something on top of this and you just want something a little bit in the background that isn't completely still, but isn't too distracting, that might be a nice option. And again, keep in mind that you can sort of combine that with those blend modes as well. And again, paper is another relatively subtle one. Polka dots. That is actually fun. I like that. So again, a lot of these might just be very subtle transitions between different things. Let me just stop this. Prism wave. Again, radial lines, soft waves. A lot of these really would work well as a bit of texture in the background. So sage curtains is again kind of funny one. And this one actually, I believe this incorporates some alpha. So watch what happens when I play through this. You see the spotlight, and as it opens up, you actually see the yellow color underneath it. So we could quite easily replace that with a video. So if I come in and maybe grab that same video again, and I'll just get rid of that for the moment. And hit play, we can see our spotlight searching, and then as the curtain opens, it reveals that little bit of footage, which again, could be fun. Depends very much on the kind of project that you're working with. But let's get rid of that. Starfield, again, quite subtle. Texture backgrounds, and vintage texture. So those things, They are good. Obviously, you wouldn't. I don't think you'd base an entire video around those, but if they do make sense for the particular project that you're working on, maybe you are interviewing a comedian, and maybe it would make sense to open up the curtains to reveal your guest. That could be fun. And a lot of these, especially if they already have the transparency built into them, they can be used to generate sort of OBS transitions as well, the stinger transitions. So I've got that there. All right, so what we might do next, let's explore some of the text options. And again, keep in mind that a lot of the things that I've got on my installation here are just downloaded from random places, and I genuinely don't remember where half of these come from, which is probably not a great strategy, really. I should probably make better notes on that kind of thing. But if I just search, and we might even just go current folder, text. In fact, let's go all. Go all folders, and I will type in text. So these exist predominantly under the title section. So I've got text, which is the basic title. I've got text plus, and I've got multi-text. And text is sort of the original version. Text plus is the improved version. Multi-text is really interesting because you can combine several pieces of text together, as the name might suggest. So if we go to just our basic text, we can change the title, and we'll say this is basic text. We can adjust the font family. And again, that will preview as we go through. I don't know what that font is. I don't really care. We can improve, we can make it larger. And again, keep in mind that you can actually animate all of these properties. So it could even be a thing that you start at one size and then you go forward a few keyframes and make it a larger size, and it'll do the magic there. You can also just include different values here. Let's leave it at 281. We've got our tracking. So if you want to stretch this out or stretch it together. And again, you can animate those. If you play around with any of these settings and you kind of want to go back to the baseline, just click on this little round arrow that will revert it back to the default. Line spacing. So if I come back into here and I press, I think Shift and Enter, you'll see that those two lines are now, those two words are on two different lines. And by default, this setting, it's kind of far away from each other. So I'd be inclined to bring it down a little bit. And again, I'm actually doing this with the keyboard. If you hold down Shift, you can get sort of larger numbers, or you can drag the cursor there. So maybe I want it to be like that. We've got font styles. So we've got underline. We've got a line above the text, or above both lines of the text, which is interesting because it's actually sort of cutting into one of those. So maybe we'd want to reset this back to what it was previously in terms of the line spacing. All right, let's turn that off. Strike through. So if you want to line through your text, that can be useful. That's superscript, which probably doesn't make sense for an entire block of text, but it is what it is, and sub text, so that's fine. We've also got the font case, so mixed or all caps. We can change it all caps, and we don't have to physically go back and retype this with all caps. It'll do its thing. We can force it to all lowercase. Small caps, which again, I probably wouldn't recommend for titles, but it might be interesting. And title caps. So if I change this to basic text with all capitals in here, and I leave it on title caps, you'll see that it's actually capitalizing the first letter of each of those words. All right, so we've got some alignment options as well. So we can left align, we can center, we can right align, and justify, which again, probably doesn't make sense for this particular bit of text, but if you had an entire paragraph, that might work better. We can also look at where we actually anchor all of this text in relation to other things around it. So at the moment, it's on, excuse me, this one here, but I can do it sort of up in the frame. I can do it lower in the frame. You can also just physically adjust the positioning options here as well. So you have a lot of different options as to where you want to put that. And in fact, I might just reset that back to what it was previously. We can worry about zoom and rotation. So if I wanted to rotate this text, I can definitely do that. And again, keep in mind that any of these properties you can animate easily enough with keyframes or other things. We've got things like drop shadow, we've got a background. So we could turn those off potentially. Turn the drop shadow back on. It's pretty subtle, but it is there. So, I mean, that's all very standard text-based stuff, and I don't know that it's well, actually, I think if we compare these two, you'll see really we have our title settings and our settings, and a lot of this is about, you know, things like the composite mode and the transform rather, and cropping and different things. Whereas if I go to the Text Plus and click on this, you'll see that we actually have different sections here for layout, transform, shading, image, and then ultimately the settings. So we have a lot more we can play with here. Most of this stuff is probably pretty similar, although we do have tab spacing, which is interesting. So if you did have like a table that you're trying to display within DaVinci Resolve, maybe a simple table, you could definitely play with the tab spacing. We've got all kinds of different options there. We've even got ligature options, which may be relevant depending on the font that you've got. Okay, that's a great question. And I should say too, let me just jump out of this for a second. So we've got a question here. What about the free version? The free version is really, really good. The main reason that I bought the speed editor, which is sort of the physical keyboard that you've probably seen in the, in fact, I think if I press this, you might be able to see it. No, that's not set up properly. But it's a physical keyboard that I can sort of use to work with DaVinci Resolve. I bought that and the paid version came with it as well. And I love it, but there's only a couple of features in here that I routinely use that are sort of paid things that I know of, and that's basically the generated AI captions and also Magic Mask. And we probably will look at Magic Mask in a little bit, but most of this stuff you can do for the free version. The main reason I got this is because I really like what Blackmagic Design are doing as a company. So like all of this stuff that I've shown you today, I think is in the free version as well. I will show you probably one feature later on today that is sort of a paid one, but most of the stuff we're doing today is all in the free section. So again, we've got that. Again, I'm just going to add some, in fact, let's just literally call it random text. We've got all the same options here, but we do have some more granularity in terms of the layouts. The transform is actually here, and we've got options like rotation. And again, this is in the free version as well. So we can really play with this. We can pivot. I don't know if we've got any Friends fans here, but that's an expression that we hear from time to time. We can shear it as well on the X and Y coordinates. So you can do a lot of that stuff. I might even I'm just going to reset all of that because I don't really want to play with it too much. The part that actually is really interesting about Text Plus is we've got the ability to work with shading. So there are actually different elements here. So we've got things like white solid fill, red outline, black shadow, blue border, element 5, element 6, element 7, and 8. And those last few ones, I imagine we can set ourselves. But if I go to element 2, which in this case is sort of red outline, and I go enable, it'll put a red outline around it. And again, it doesn't have to stay red. We can come in here and we can change the color. We can change all the different settings here. And maybe change the color of that with the RGB picker. Maybe I use the alpha to make that slightly transparent. Change the softness. Again, what I might actually do though is I'm going to go back and just make this a lot larger, just so it's more obvious what we're doing. And we'll go back to our shading. So there potentially are some settings here that that you might want to use, or you might want to use as a starting point even. So black shadow, we can enable that. That actually gives us a much more profound shadow than the other one that we looked at previously. And again, we can change the color. So even though it's black shadow, we can maybe make it a red shadow. We can come in here and, you know, work on the softness. So maybe I do want to soften this out a little bit so it's not so harsh. I can adjust that as well. We can make it glow. So if you want it to make more prominent, you can definitely do that. And let me just block the user that's spamming the chat. We'll ignore that person. We can do that there as well. So we've got all these different options, and again, you can play with these or you can get rid of them. We've got blue border, which is interesting because it's actually, it's around the text itself. It's not around, like, it's around the individual words. It's not around the block as a whole. And we've got these other elements, so that presumably we can just set whatever properties we want here. So we have that there. We go back to, yeah, so we've got text, so basic text, the original text, text plus, which gives us more features. And finally, we have multi-text. So multi-text is a way of having sort of one element on our timeline that can contain multiple pieces of text. So if I wanted to say, let's say learn, and I'm going to come up to where it says text list, and I'm going to click on this one here that says, we've basically got the ability to add text. So I've got point layout, text box layout, circle layout, and import from a CSV, which I don't have a use case for, but maybe somebody does. I'm actually just going to go text point, and I'm going to go DaVinci. Maybe I should do it all in caps. And I'll do that again, and I'll say Resolve. So now we've got these three separate bits of text that we can go in and sort of format differently. So just make sure we've clicked on the first one, and we can decide what kind of color we want. Maybe I want to make this, I don't know. Looking for extra bold. There we go. Make it extra bold. Maybe I want to make this really large. So I'll increase the size. Maybe not that large. I can adjust the color. I can sort of think about where I want to put this. And again, because the multi-text options are laid out in the same way as the text plus, if I go over to this layout, and again, make sure I'm on the one that I want to adjust, but I can sort of adjust the X and Y coordinates. So, you know, maybe I want to move this up in the frame. So I'll adjust the Y, put that there. And then I'll go back and sort of adjust the DaVinci. Let's actually make this, again, in a perfect world, I would pick real colors rather than just picking them randomly here. That's interesting. That didn't seem to do anything. Let me try again. Okay, there we go. Cool, cool. Again, I'll make it nice and large. And let's pop over to the layout tab and let's, you know, adjust where this is in the frame. And I'll move this one down. And again, we just need to go back to a different tab to adjust the size. So I guess the great thing about this is that we can have different elements and they'll always be together in here. So depending on what you're doing, you might want to use a couple of text plus, or you might want to use a multi-text. It's kind of up to you. You would potentially have a little bit more granularity if you're doing these with different clips, because I guess the other thing that we can do too is if we go to our transitions, for example, let me just clear that search. Video transitions. So we can sort of apply any of these transitions to text. So if I drag this one over here, for example, and we'll hit play, you'll see that that'll come across. And like I can do the same sort of thing for the multi-text. It's just that if I wanted to maybe animate these things separately, it might be worthwhile to actually get them out of that section. Although in this case, that's kind of good. I like that. All right, so one thing that somebody did ask me about recently on a Facebook group, which I think we might recreate quickly. is, and we're sort of getting into the mask portion of today. So I'm going to grab that same random clip over here. If my computer catches up, which it may not. Come on, computer, wake up. There we go. All right. Again, I'm going to get rid of the audio because you don't really need to hear the background noises in this case. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to head over to the Fusion tab just to show you how we can mask this in Fusion. So what we can do, I've got the media. It's going to the media out. I'm actually going to bring in a background. And if I go Control Space, it'll actually ask me what tools I want. So I can type in merge and I can bring that in as well. And I can go add. And now what I want to do, and let's actually remove this. I want to go from backgrounds to merge, merge to media out. And then let's do that Control Space again, and I will go text. And Text Plus is probably a good option for this. We'll go add. Interestingly, it's brought in a merge that I wasn't really needing, so I'm going to get rid of that for a second. So what we're going to do, we're going to bring this up here. We're going to bring our footage down here. I'm actually going to merge the footage here. So now we're going from background to merge to media out, and the media itself is merged here. But let's actually bring in our text. And again, I'm going to write something in here. So we'll say text. And let's drag this one. This will be the point at which I find out if I did that correctly. Yep. So we went from the right-hand side down to the merge. So now I've got this merged. Let's increase the size. We might even want to think about changing the position of this a little bit. So I can do that like that. The other thing too, and I guess the crux of the question that came on Facebook was, how do you actually put a background color around this? So again, this is the point at which we go back to our background node, and we can literally just come in and choose a different color. So if I wanted it to be maybe yellow, or I don't know, whatever shade of red that is, I can do that there. The other thing too, if you do want to sort of retain the transparency, we can just leave this as black, but we can also turn the alpha down to 0. And now if I go back to the edit, you see we've got this here. If I move this maybe up, and let's go back to our generators, and let's actually get, you know, a gradient here, for example, we can sort of have that there, and we've essentially masked out the text with the video, and you're sort of good to go. So I mentioned that one specifically because it did come up in a Facebook group during the week, and it's kind of a fun thing to do. Like in this case, I'd probably want to play maybe with a different font, maybe something that is sort of a little bit more blocky. And this actually is probably a good place where we could think about bringing the tracking a little bit closer together. So if I wanted to, you know, I don't know, that seems a little bit dramatic, but maybe something like that. And again, even just increasing the size and maybe reducing the tracking a little bit. I mean, you could literally have all these letters on top of each other and animate that out if you wanted to. So lots of different things that we can do there, but we'll come back in a second and talk a little bit more about other masks that we can play with, including one that is a studio feature, but everything else I've shown you today, I'm pretty sure is available in the free version, but we'll be back in just a second. This is the Learn Live Streaming Live. My name's John Lacey. Today on the show, we're looking at DaVinci Resolve and specifically working with generators, masks, and text. So I've been playing around with a lot of different things, but I think let's just get rid of everything that's on our timeline right now. I will show you something that is a studio-only feature, and maybe you don't have this, maybe you don't want to know about this, but I just think it's cool. And this is one of the couple of things that I actually do kind of use periodically. Again, let's get rid of the audio because I don't really care about that at the moment. But let's head over to, we've got our footage. Let's head over to the, in fact, what I might do, I'm going to actually just hold down the Alt key and drag this up. I'm going to click on the Video 2 section. Let's head over to the Color tab. And let's actually play with Magic Mask because this is pretty cool. And this is one of my favorite things about the paid version. So if we go over to the AI Magic Mask option here, click on that one. And I'm going to actually click on myself in this footage. And you'll see that not a lot is changing here. So let's just go to this icon, which is Toggle Mask Overlay. It's sort of... once I've got that one, you can see that there's sort of a red highlight of me. And again, potentially I could get more granular and put more points in. In this case, because this was shot outside and there actually wasn't anything sort of directly behind me, the contrast here is pretty good. So now, once I've marked myself out, I can use this track forward and reverse option, the arrows going in each way. This all happens on your local computer. So this isn't happening in the cloud. It's happening on your local computer. So just keep that in mind. If you've got an older computer, this may take longer, but you'll see it's sort of saying in this case about a minute, but we'll just let that do its thing in the background. I guess the other thing that I would normally do too is I probably would only want a small section of this to be masked out. Normally I would cut that to be a smaller section. So that can be really useful. But in this case, let's just do its thing. And I'll show you how magical this can be in a very short period of time. And maybe I'll see if I can move this window so you can actually see that it sort of marks me out here. This footage actually goes a lot longer than I remembered, but it's fine. We'll get there. Again, this is one of sort of two features that I really do appreciate about the studio version. The other one that I use a lot is the AI generated captions. Again, they're not perfect. You definitely do need to go in and sort of double check those, but it is a really good starting point. So you're not starting from scratch. I know a lot of people have their own workflows, and honestly, whatever you're doing, if it's working for you, then that's all that matters. All right, so this is nearly done. There we go. Now it is done. Okay, cool. So if I click here, I'm right clicking here, and I want to go to add alpha output. We'll get another output over here, which is this little blue one. If I connect this blue dot to this blue dot, and we'll go back to our edit page. And I'm just going to hide this track underneath for a second. And now you'll see that that's actually just got rid of the background. So I can hit play. Again, this is me outside. The light was changing constantly. This is a little bit hit and miss. You probably want to go through and sort of tweak this a little bit. But you can see that that happens like in the course of 1 minute for a minute 20's worth of footage. So that is really cool. And, you know, if we wanted to add a track between these two, and we'll move this one down, this is kind of the point at which we can go to our titles. And let's go Text Plus. And let me just make this one visible again. So now, if I go and adjust this, make sure I've selected the Text Plus, and I can put a title in here and say, let's just write DaVinci Resolve. Let's make this larger. This is actually probably a really good use case for some of these other options. So the red outline might be a good option here. If I go back to my layouts, probably want this a little bit higher in the frame. Maybe even a little bit larger. Maybe a little bit lower. Again, these are sort of things that you can play with to your heart's content. So let's go maybe 550. So we literally sort of have this text behind my head now. And let's imagine that we want to keyframe this a little bit. So let's start it around here. And all I'm really going to do is adjust the position of this. So I'm going to put a keyframe here. Oh, make sure I've actually selected it and I'm actually at the right place. Okay, so let's just... Okay, I don't know what I've done there, but let's just undo a couple of times. What have I done there? That's very annoying. DaVinci Resolve. Let's just reset this. Let's reset all of it. I genuinely don't know what I've done there. I've probably made it tiny. That's probably what I've done. Where is it? Layout. Let's reset all of this. All right, I genuinely have no idea where my text has gone, so let's just get rid of that and let's just do it again. I still can't see it. I haven't swept those around, have I? Oh, actually, I have a feeling I know what I've done. Let me just see how far I can undo. Because I have a weird feeling that my mask has disappeared because I've accidentally changed something. And there are two different ways of doing the mask. One is in the Fusion and one of them is actually in the Color tab. I generally reach for the Color tab, but in this case, I think that was probably a mistake. So let's grab the Fusion version. Let's see if we can add this back in. Mask, magic mask. Add. All right. I haven't actually used this version of the magic mask in forever, but let's just give it a go. Yeah, it looks about right. We'll go track forward and backwards. And the thing is, if I make any changes to the video itself in the colored version, my magic mask just disappears, which is incredibly annoying. And I kind of wish that wasn't the case. But here, we're just going to let it do its thing. I believe that it's a little bit slower, actually, in the Fusion version than the color version. But I could be wrong about that. Feel free to correct me if you know better. Okay, so theoretically, we'll go back. Actually, it's still doing its thing in the background. It's just being slow about it. Just we can see down here, and it is kind of behind where I am in the frame, but it says last preview frame and 10%. So this will take a little bit longer, but hopefully then we'll actually be able to see our text. So just make sure you've selected the right thing if you are going to play with keyframes, especially after you've magic masked, but that is doing its thing in the background. This is definitely a slower version of doing this. So I don't even know that I can stop it now. I guess I can stop the tracking up here. But yeah, once it's done here, it should be done everywhere. So that'll be good. But again, it does definitely take longer. So while that's doing its thing in the background, let's actually just move this up. And I'm just going to recreate some of my text over here. while it's doing its thing in the background. And it's interesting because it's definitely more resource intensive when it is in the Fusion section, but hopefully we won't need to redo that too many times. I can go in and potentially make this larger. But again, even the preview here is taking a little bit of time to reflect those changes because all the power is going into the magic mask. So that's okay. It can do its thing in the background. And we're only 14% through. So look, what I'm going to do for the moment, I think to the extent I'm able, I'm going to go into here, hopefully. Fusion. No, I don't think it's going to let me. What a joyful way of ending a live stream. All right. This one here. All right. A part of me really wants to just close this project and start again because that really does seem to be taking a lot of time. And it's not going to let me. That is so annoying. All right, let's get rid of that for a second. So hopefully this won't completely crash my computer, but what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and close DaVinci. I'm going to reopen it. So it just goes to show if you don't need Magic Mask, maybe you're better off not playing with it. And again, if you don't need it, then the free version is probably great. But it is kind of nice that you don't have to you don't have to adjust the mask in every frame in the way that you would have to do for the free version if you're doing something that is quite that granular. So hopefully DaVinci Resolve is going to do its thing in the background and reopen, but maybe it won't. Maybe it's just here to keep me on my toes. Isn't it great when you're doing things live and nothing works? Oh, well, yeah, I don't know that DaVinci is coming back. I've probably given my computer too much to wrangle with in the short term. Let me try one more time. There we go. Okay. So again, when it comes to Magic Mask, think about, are you going to use the Fusion version of Magic Mask? Are you going to use it in the color tab? Generally, I do reach for the color tab. The color tab seems to be much quicker. But again, if you make any change to that footage after you've done the mask, you will essentially need to do it again. All right, let's see if I can go back to the generators and masks file. Hopefully it's given up on this pursuit. So what I'm going to do, and this is kind of what I would do normally. Let's literally just cut our image, or our video rather. So we're only working with this one little bit. And again, I'm going to go to the color tab because it'll just be so much quicker. Which version of that is this? Okay. All right, so it's under this one. All right, cool. Let's really quickly just magic mask this out. And again, turn that overlay on so I know what I'm doing and track forward and back. And you'll see this is so much quicker than the Fusion version, although I've also cut down the duration of the clip. So again, it should take next to no time at all, which is kind of what I'd recommend you do in a real world example too. And it's going to do its thing, and we've got about another minute to go. So again, you don't want to reach for this one all the time, but when it makes sense, it is kind of a useful thing to do. And it's just tracking forward and back through that footage just to make sure that we're getting as good a cutout as we can. Again, you can sort of go through and play with that a little bit. And Business Go 3D Rets, I haven't had a chance to play with Magic Mask at all. Yeah, it is kind of fun. And again, I posted something, and I haven't actually published the video, but I in a previous live stream, I sort of took a vertical video and made a horizontal video and made a vertical cut of it. And I sort of cut myself out of the frame and I just made me black and white. And it actually looks really cool. It's interesting here, if you look at this, I probably started somewhere inside of the clip, so it actually tracked forward and now it's tracking backwards. So you'll see that I am going backwards. Again, let's right click up here, let's add the alpha output and let's connect the alpha output from our clip to the alpha output as a whole. Let's go back here. Again, it's not going to look dramatically different, but if we add a track, and let's just drag this up. All right. Again, I have no idea what's going on with my text. It's incredibly annoying. All right, let's... Look, let's... I'm just going to start from scratch. Let's just grab another text plus, throw it in. I don't know what's going on with that. Is that not the clip? Did I get the wrong one? Let me just hide this for a second. That is weird because, yeah, that obviously hasn't worked properly. So let me go back to the color. Okay. Let's reset all of that. I can add a few extra points here if I need to. Let's just track forward and back. I swear this works. Or it should work. I guess the thing you do need to be a little bit mindful is if you're actually on the right track, and I'm assuming that's the version that I'm working with. But again, we'll figure it out. So Business Code 3 writes, I was in the middle of posting for customers and our entire block, 130 homes and businesses lost power for 12.5 hours today. That forced all apps to close. Oh my goodness. And I'm imagining it's still incredibly, insanely hot over there too, which it would be horrendous. I don't think, like, the thing I'm masking at the moment isn't the part of the clip that I thought it was going to be. So anyway, you might actually need to just take my word for it that this does work, because I'm obviously not organized enough to be doing the right clip, which is incredibly annoying. But what we'll do, whatever this looks like, I will just move the text underneath it, and I'll show you that it is in fact possible. Although I have a weird feeling it's probably the version that's underneath it. But anyway, let's try. Looks like we've got our alpha. That is really weird. Okay, so it looks like I've done it over here. So let's just move this. Put that there. Put that there. And again, just make sure that the underneath version is visible again. It looks like I've managed to break this really well, and I don't know why. Did we turn that back on? Yeah, it's visible. Maybe this is the version that's actually, I have a feeling that's what I've done. So if I turn this off, no. Okay, so yeah, it looks like I've done my clip as a whole. All right, let's just go, let's just move this track down. So now, essentially, this is what's underneath it. In fact, let's move this one up. Let's move this one down. Let's make this visible again. All right. Well, clearly I need more practice in DaVinci Resolve because I haven't done this particularly well at all. Look, what I might do just to prove to you and to me that I actually know how to do this. Let's open a recent project. This one here. So this is something that I've done previously, and here I've literally, and it may not be super obvious, but essentially what we had here was this footage, and it kind of looks like that. All I did was come in and I masked it out, and I just adjusted the color of myself to be black and white. So these things are possible. You can sort of layer things behind and in front of things. But anyway, I guess if nothing else, this has proved to me that I need more practice in both live streaming and DaVinci Resolve. So we're going to have to do some more sessions. But on next week's show, I do want to talk to you about the things I bought during Amazon Prime Week. And I should say it's not the thing that I wanted to buy. It's sort of a compromise for reasons we'll get into next week. But I am very excited about it. I needed a second camera, and I got a second camera. And I'll explain to you why I picked the particular one that I got and some of the accessories and different things that I'm playing with. So we'll do that next week. Again, thank you to everybody who has subscribed. I really do appreciate it. We did reach that 1,000 subscriber mark. So thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Try to stay cool if you're in a hot part of the world. Look after yourself, and I'll talk to you again very, very soon.